Hey, Tuck. Hey, Steven. Hey, Steven.
Yes.
I have Siri on. I said hi Siri, but now it's okay. You get it.
Yes.
I have Siri on. I said hi Siri, but now it's Taki. I haven't met you here before. Your face looks a little new. What brings you to Sarah? What have you been up to? What do you do? Where you're from? Is it Taki? I'm not that whitewashed. I know it's not like take, so trying to figure out the right way to call you.
Hey, yeah, this is Taka. Sir, I'm driving right now, so but yeah, I'm very excited to listen to you guys.
Okay. Anders, seen some new names here. Hey, Annie. Hey, Alvin.
Hey, Nelson.
Okay, and Sean is officially in the room. I love that your profile photo is also just you holding lobsters, Alvin. Is that lobsters? I can't tell. Okay, I think something's wrong with my microphones. Give me a sec so I can actually hear. Okay, can someone talk? I'm just trying to make sure my speakers are working.
No, we're just ghosting you.
Yeah. Nice, perfect. All right, yeah, just couldn't hear for a long time. All right, rolling back, Taki, who's yeah, I called you out already. Sorry if I didn't hear what you said earlier. It's good to see some new faces in here. Hi, Chow. Where are you from?
Hey, my name is Hai Chow. I'm from San Jose.
San Jose. Nice. Where are you looking at?
I'm sorry.
Where are you looking to buy? What are you doing with real estate?
So I have one property under contract for a student rental, and I have one already closed. But I already talked to Sean Pan before about 2-3 weeks ago to talk about hard money lending. I'm looking to get into fix and flips. That's the goal right now, but just looking what my options are right now.
Got it. Okay. No, that's good. Okay. Okay. Taki is currently driving. Sorry, I didn't mean to try to kill you. Okay. Jeff is in the house. I love seeing faces. Where are you
guys.
from, Jeff?
I'm right here in Santa Clara,
Santa Clara. Okay.
Santa Clara, California. Consider myself a beginner. I was in the business a long time ago, and I got out right before the crash, and had to take care of some medical issues first, and now I'm back.
Gotcha. What are you looking for? How can we help you?
Looking for a multifamily. I'm trying to figure out how to do financing, especially hard lenders, hard money lenders versus soft lenders versus owner financing and so forth.
Got it. Okay. Hopefully Sean can go over some of that. You got it on your presentation that you've been preparing all week, Sean, right?
Yeah, you know it. I have my girlfriend helping me out and everything too.
She did all the work, right?
Without her, this would look terrible. Like bare bones. Now it's like, all right, it's okay.
All right, let's give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Anyone else looking for anything before we start? Anybody looking to, any requests that they're trying to put out into the universe of Subtle Asian real estate?
So Nelson, do you live in Austin now?
I live in Austin now, yeah, but buying perhaps all the way out in North Carolina soon. So
yeah,
after
that
field trip.
That trip seemed like you guys had a lot of fun there.
Yeah. I'm looking to get into some industrial stuff. So that's kind of exciting there.
Fancy.
Yeah, we're negotiating at the moment and hoping to get under contract and then, do a big SARE fund maybe even, right? So
nice.
Okay, 7:05. Let's get started. Okay, so Sean, as everyone knows from the title, today we're here to talk about hard money lending. Sean's a real estate investor, hard money lender, and he's based out of the Bay Area. He himself mostly does single family renovations as well as out-of-state investments. I believe in Florida, I've seen. He's also the host of the Everything Real Estate Investing Show, where he interviews a bunch of investors and have them share the secrets with his listeners. Basically what we're doing here. In the presentation, Sean's going to teach us everything we need to know about hard money loans and how we can use it to help us with our next flip and fixed project. Or maybe if you're stuck with lending and trying to get a project under contract and you don't have the financing, it could help plug it in at the last second if you're doing multifamily as well. He's going to go over some of these long-term rental loan programs as well. And basically how you can keep purchasing rental properties when you can't get these normal conventional loans. Okay, so without, I guess, further ado, Sean Pan, why don't you tell us a little about your origin story and then about some hard money loans.
Sounds good. I'm allowed to share my screen, right?
Yeah.
Seems like I should be good to go here. Let's check this out. Let's see. The full screen for everybody? Cool. All right, so what's going on, guys? This is going to be more of like a generic hard money lending presentation. We're going to be going over like fix and flip loans and long-term rental loans. So I know you mentioned like origin story. So I guess for you who don't know me, my name is Sean. I'm a real estate investor based in the Bay Area. My girlfriend and myself, we own around 22 rental properties across the nation. in like Texas, Georgia, and Florida. We have also flipped properties here in the Bay Area. And that's actually how I got in connection with this company that I work with now, Conventus Lending. So I am also a hard money lender with Conventus. I also do a podcast, as you mentioned, the Everything Real Estate Investing Show with Sean Pan, where I interview a lot of other real estate investors and professionals to like understand what's going on in the business and to give insider information to our listeners. I also host a YouTube channel where we host 2 videos per week, and I'm also a meetup group leader. So if you guys want more interesting stuff like that, feel free to join our meetup group as well. This presentation, again, is going to be more of like a generic, like what is hard money loans. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt, chat with me, we can talk about it. If I think it's something that is too detailed, we might push it to later. Or if I know that we have another slide coming up, then I'll just say, wait for the next slide to come up. But with that being said, welcome everybody to this presentation about hard money loans. Hopefully you guys use it for your fix and flip projects, or you can use it for your rental properties. So yeah, there really is 2 types of hard money loans. The first one you're going to hear a lot in the industry is called a bridge loan. Bridge loans are typically the hard money loans you use for fix and flip projects. These are going to be short-term loans, probably just for 12 months and interest only, with higher interest. And the other side, you have a long-term rental loan, and those are for 30-year fixed loan products. The reason why it's called a hard money loan is because these are loans that are based on the hard asset instead of on your credit worthiness. So don't get me wrong, we're still going to check your credit, but the deal is really going to be based on, or the loan's going to be based on if the deal works or not. And I say that hard money loan is somewhere between institutional financing and private money, because like with private money, that could be any rich friend that you have, your uncle, cousin, whatever. They have money, they don't really need to do underwriting on the deal. As long as they believe in you, they'll give you the money. Whereas with like conventional financing and institutional financing, they're going to want all of your documents. They're going to want to see everything about the property, about you. We're somewhere in between. We still do underwriting, but we're pretty flexible with our terms. So in today's meeting, we're going to cover both the bridge side and long-term rental loan side. Sorry, do you have a question? No, good. All right, cool. We're going to cover the bridge side and long-term rental loan side. So the first thing for bridge, we'll cover like common misconceptions, who should be using hard money loans, the process of getting a hard money loan, required documents, construction loans and what they entail, as well as the costs of using a hard money loan. On the long-term rental loan side, we have the different types of long-term rental loans, what prepayment penalties are, how to calculate your debt service coverage ratio, how to calculate your rates, the limitations with this long-term rental loan program, seasoning periods, and how to get cheaper loans. So starting off with bridge loans, the first thing let's talk about are the common misconceptions with a hard money loan. So number one, people think that with a hard money loan, I can get 100% financing from one hard money lender. Generally, that's not going to be true. Most hard money lenders will limit your LTV to 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab costs for experienced investors. If you're new to the industry, you haven't done any deals before, they're probably going to scale it back to maybe 80% of purchase and 80% of the rehab budget. Misconception number two, they teach this at a lot of the like real estate conferences. They said, I can get a private lender to then cover the down payment and closing costs. Again, having no skin in the game. Most hard money lenders don't like that concept either, because if you have no skin in the game, then you can easily walk from a project if something's going wrong. And that's obviously not good for the lender. You can partner with other investors if you don't have enough funds for it, but generally speaking, we want them to also be guarantors on the loan. So they're gonna have to sign on the loan and personally guarantee it. So number three, some people think that because you're using a hard money loan, that credit doesn't matter. Most hard money lenders still do a credit check and a background check. So if you have a foreclosure or bankruptcy, or you're convicted of fraud in the past, they probably won't do a loan with you either. And misconception number four, appraisals aren't needed for hard money loans. So it really depends on the lender you're using. Sometimes they still need to do interior appraisals. Like for our company, we do interior appraisals, even though we don't use like licensed appraisers.
Question about misconception number three. So then how does it work in terms of credit mattering? We're currently doing like a loan where it's kind of like a portfolio loan, but there's three of us on it, and we get a worse interest rate when it's all three of us than when the one of us who has the best credit just is the only signer on the loan.
Again, that depends on your lender, but like for us, when we have multiple people on it, we usually take the person who has the least, like the lowest credit score, and then price the entire loan on that one person. Yeah. And of course, these are for like institutional hard money lenders like ourselves who can do nationwide. We're relatively cheap for hard money loan. There are definitely people out there who maybe have their own private funds and they don't care about anything I just said. Like they don't care about credit check. They will do 100% financing. They won't do an appraisal, but I guarantee you, they're going to charge you a lot of money for it. Maybe like 12 to 15% for the note rate, and then maybe 3 to 5 points for the loan. So if you're going to work with a hard money lender that's like established, that have almost unlimited funds for you to keep doing more and more deals with pretty good rates, these are the misconceptions here. All right.
This
so
is
let's get
Roger.
on.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Do you guys do loans through like S corps, LLCs?
Yep. Yes, we do.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I guess that's another pro as well. So most conventional financing, they won't lend to a corporation or LLC. They want to lend it to someone, and then I guess you're supposed to like transfer it out into an LLC later on. Okay, so when should you use hard money? Hard money is used for these three big cases. If you can't qualify for conventional financing, if you need to close quickly, and if you need more leverage. So not qualifying for conventional financing, it's usually not because your credit sucks. It's like if your debt to income ratio is too high already. So if you guys aren't familiar with how loans work in like the conventional space, what they do is they'll take all of your debt, your student loan payments, credit card payments, car payments, and they'll take the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, basically the mandatory payments you need for that next property, and add it to your total like debt number. Then they'll divide it by the income that you make. So let's say you make $120,000 from your full-time job. You divide that by 12, now you make $10,000 a month. This debt to income ratio needs to be around 43% for them to give you a loan. If it's higher than that, they will probably cut you off. As a perfect example, when I was trying to flip my first property, I had a house here in the South Bay, and I also had rental properties that have loans on them. I found this amazing opportunity in Sunnyvale, but there was no way that the bank would give me the loan. Even though I had the cash for the down payment, they wouldn't give me the loan for the rest of it to buy this flip project. So my debt to income ratio was bad. I was able to use a hard money loan to then buy that project and then make a lot of profit on it. The second point that you can't qualify is if the property condition is too poor. So if the property doesn't have like a bathroom, there's a wall that's torn down, there's some electrical work that needs to be fixed. The lender will send an appraiser over, and the appraiser will know all these things that say, hey, this property is inhabitable. You need to fix all these things before it's good to go. And the lender will tell you like, hey, this seller needs to fix all these problems before you can buy it and give you a loan. Obviously, if you're buying a fixer property, one of the main reasons is because you're taking over someone's problem, right? So that's why a hard money lender, like, we don't care. We understand the property's in bad condition. You're just going to buy it as is and then fix it up later. Another problem with conventional financing is if you have too many loans. So if you have 0 to 4 loans, it's easy to get a loan, no problem. 4 to 10, it gets a little bit harder. They probably want more documentation. They'll probably charge you more for the loan, but it's still doable. After 10 loans, they're going to cut you off. So we actually have a lot of clients who have these giant portfolios and they just can't get more loans. And that's why they use us. So needing to close quickly, conventional financing typically takes between 25 and 30 plus days. I know when I sold a property a few months ago, my buyer took over 40 days to close on the property because the lender took so long. Whereas for hard money loans, we can close between 10 and 14 days. For like repeat customers who we already have their files, I've closed deals as fast as 6 days. So we can close really quickly, and that makes it a very attractive option for sellers who want to sell their home, hopefully at a discount. And of course, we can do it if you need more leverage. So we can give up to 90% financing for experienced investors, and we can also fund their rehab projects. If you were to go with a conventional lender, they'll probably limit you to 80% of the purchase price, and then you're pretty much on your own for the rehab costs. You'd have to pay for that out of pocket. Now, however, hard money loans are not for everyone. we cannot lend on anything that's owner occupied. It has to be for investment or business purposes only. And I get a lot of calls from my realtor friends who are like, hey, Sean, my client's buying a house. It's for a $2 million home, but the thing didn't appraise or the lender backed out last minute. Can you help us fund it? And unfortunately, I had to say no because they're trying to buy it for their own owner occupancy. Like I mentioned before, we can't give 100% financing. So if you're looking for that, then we're not the right fit. And again, investors should have above a 620 credit score. If they're a little bit lower than that, then we might be able to make some exceptions, but generally at the cost of a higher loan amount. So what's the process for getting a hard money loan? If you're interested in getting a hard money loan, you should start calling loan officers. So you call someone like myself, and I would ask you two separate categories of questions. Some information about the property and some information about you. For the property, we're going to want to know very basic things like what's the address, what's the purchase price, what's your approximate rehab cost, and what's the approximate ARV. So ARV stands for after repair value. Basically, what do you think it's going to sell for? And this information will let us know, hey, is this in an area that we can even lend in? Because sometimes the address is in a super rural location and we can't lend in those areas. If your purchase price is super high because you're like, I need to win this bid, we're like, I don't know, you're probably overbidding. An estimated rehab cost, right? Like if you're planning on doing $500,000 of work for an 800 square foot home, we're like, that doesn't make sense. Same thing with ARV. We want to understand your exit strategy, and we're going to see if you're going to make money on this deal or not. And then on the flip side, we're going to ask about information about you. What's your approximate credit score? How much do you have in liquid funds? So that's like cash in your bank or like stocks or maybe in crypto, whatever you have in statements that you can show us. We want to know what that number is. And if you have to use retirement accounts, we do accept that as part of your liquid funds, but just realize that we take a discount on it because if you were to sell things from your retirement account, you pay a 10% penalty, plus you have to pay tax on that. So we do take a discount of that number you tell us about retirements. And we also want to know prior experience. So we consider experience as properties that you've had under title from the past 3 years. If you were like a contractor and you've done hundreds of jobs, but you've never invested yourself, unfortunately, we can't really count that as experience because you haven't taken the risk, right? You haven't made any of the key decisions.
Follow up on this actually. So
Yeah,
if you have a brand new LLC, but even you as the individual has a bunch of properties yourself, will that count towards experience of your brand new LLC?
That would count, yeah. So we just say, hey, list all the LLCs that you were associated with, of course, your own personal name as well. And we're going to do a title search on these LLCs and your personal name. And we're going to be able to see, okay, this person has all these properties. From our company, we count it as properties under title. So one fourplex is 4 units, but it's one property. It's one experience. And so we have different tiers. Like if you're from 0 to 4 properties in the last 3 years, you're like a tier 5 client. You're new, you're just getting started. And then as you go up in the tiers, we generally give better terms and better pricing as well. So here are the requirements and documents that you'll need. You notice the first thing is we don't care about your W-2 or tax returns, but we still do need some stuff. Usually we do a hard credit pull. Every 6 months. So if you're doing multiple deals with us, we only pull your credit once every 6 months. If you're gonna be buying through an LLC, we're gonna wanna see that documentation. So your LLC articles of incorporation. We wanna see your operating agreement that shows all the managers in the LLC. You told me you had $300,000. Well, now you have to show it. Do you have the bank statements? Do you have your HELOC statements? Do you have your financial statements from your stock broker? We're going to see a driver's license and ID, your purchase agreement, obviously to show the terms, your title prelim and escrow contact. So the title company should create this prelim for you. We'll want to know who your insurance contact is. And for flips, it's probably not going to be someone from Farmers or Geico. They need to have insurance policies for vacant properties that need a lot of rehab in it. And we also want to see your scope of work. We want to know what your contractor thinks the project will cost to renovate. But you see, it's not that much information, and it all kind of makes sense here. And of course, you don't need this information until after you have a loan started. So don't just send me your financial statements until you actually have a loan with us. Now, another part about hard money loans is that we offer construction loans, also known as rehab loans. The first thing we're going to do is ask your GC for the scope of work. So they're going to create a line-by-line description of the work and the costs associated with it. The second thing is we're going to send it off to a third-party company to do a feasibility study. That feasibility study costs $650, but it's kind of like an appraisal of your GC's scope of work. They're going to make sure that the numbers aren't like crazy high, and they're going to make sure the numbers aren't crazy low. Because if they're like really low, we're going to be like, hey, this is kind of fishy. Your GC might just increase the budget on you later in the future. And of course, if it's too high, that means you're getting ripped off. Then on the draw process, so let's say you're getting a loan for $100,000 for your rehab budget, or your rehab budget is $100,000 and you're getting 80% loan on it. We're not going to give you $80,000 on day one. Just like, here you go, have fun and go spend it on your project. The way that we pay you this loan is through a draw process. So it's kind of like a reimbursement. So the way it works is you're going to break out your project into different milestones or phases. Let's say phase one is you come in, you demo the property, and maybe put up new drywall. When that's done, you'll call us. We'll send an inspector through to your property. They'll take a look around and they'll say, okay, you did the work that you said you were going to do. And our construction team will review the photos and the invoices, and then we'll wire you the funds back directly to your account. So by that time, you basically put up the money up front to pay for materials and the labor, and then we'll reimburse you, in this case, 80 cents on the dollar, all the way through. So you just keep doing it multiple times throughout the project. So here are all the costs associated with a hard money loan. The first one is interest. Again, typically 8 to 10%. This is going to be interest only. Your origination fees, also known as your points, are typically going to be about 1 to 2% of the loan amount upfront at closing. Most companies charge a processing fee as well. We usually charge $1,500, but if you guys mentioned that you guys came from the sole agent real estate group, we can reduce that to $999. This pays for appraisals. It pays for doing the processing for the loan. Again, these are also charged at closing too. Some hard money lenders will also charge an appraisal fee on top of this. Again, the feasibility study was if you were getting a rehab loan for your contractor. Some states like Georgia, New York, New Jersey, and Texas, these are attorney closed states. So they don't just use regular title companies, they actually have attorneys who handle the closing of real estate. And because of that, it adds a lot of complication. So we have to have like a third party attorney on our side as well to review documents and make sure everything's good. So that would increase your processing fees by another $700 to $1,000. Again, depending on how complicated your deal is. Servicing fees are going to be between $15 to $100 per month. And this is going to pay because most hard money lending companies don't do servicing in-house. They outsource it to a third-party company who handles all the payments. This $15 to $100 a month, it scales based on how big your loan is. Draw fees, so like I mentioned, you can have as many draws as you want to pull money. But every time you send an inspector out, they'll charge you $265. Now, some hard money lending companies also have a prepayment penalty. Our company doesn't, but many of them do. And this is typically going to be 3 and 4 months. So what this means is even if you finish your project in 1 month and you sell it, you still have to pay the interest on the other 3 months because you have a 4-month minimum interest prepayment penalty. So it really doesn't benefit you if you finish in 3 months or 4 months. But generally speaking, for a flip, most people don't finish within that time frame anyway. So it's not the end of the world. So here's an example deal with some example numbers. Let's assume the purchase price of a property is for $500,000. You're getting an 80% loan to value loan. So that is for $400,000. Your interest rate here is 8.5%. So the way you calculate your monthly payments is pretty easy. You just take 8.5%, multiply it by your loan amount of $400,000, and then you get $34,000 per year. Divide that by 12, and your monthly payments are $2,833. In this case, you're going to have 1 point here. So 1 point is 1% of your loan amount. So again, that's $4,000. Processing fees of $1,500 and servicing fees of $30 per month. So if you estimate a project time of 4 months, it's pretty easy to calculate your total cost of hard money. You take your points here, you add to your processing fees, you add your interest, which is $2,833, plus your servicing fees, $30, and then multiply that by 4, and then you get a total cost of hard money of $16,953. So hopefully you're making enough profit so that this number is justified with, for using hard money in the first place. All right, I'm gonna take a quick break. That was the bridge side. We have part 2 for long-term rental loans. Does anyone have any questions about our bridge loans in general? Go ahead.
I got one. So what sort of interest rates should you give if you are the person giving, say, a hard money loan to a private party? Because someone recently asked if I could help bridge a gap for them. It's only like a month, but I don't know what's a fair fee.
Yeah, that's great. So the thing is, our loans are typically going to be first position loans. So we have less risk. You are going to be coming in possibly as a second position lender, right? You're the gap lender. And also our cost of capital is a lot less. Yeah, it's a lot less than yours, right? It's your money, your hard-earned money. For us, we have like billions of dollars that we can back our loans with. So we're not tripping too hard. Honestly, I think the going rate is going to be between 10 and 12% and possibly 2 points. That's usually the going rate for private money lenders for second position loans.
Okay. So Alvin asked, why do you use, who do you use for the feasibility study, and why do you do it, not in-house? Is it like a legal requirement or?
Yeah. So, right. Sorry. Before the second one, what was the first question again? Like, why do we do it in the first place?
I mean, or who do you use, and then why do you not do it in-house?
Okay. So who we use depends on, I guess, location. So I'm not part of the construction team. I don't know the exact intricacies behind that, but there are several third-party feasibility study, like construction companies that do feasibility studies, kind of like appraisers. Like they're everywhere. The third party, they're not like the lender. Now, why do we do it? I think it has to do with when we sell the loan off, because again, we're an origination company, right? Eventually, they sell the loan off to investors. You want to kind of show, hey, I did my proper due diligence. I had a third-party company review the scope of work, and it looks good. And then that's probably why they do it. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had 2 questions. So for I believe I asked you before, Sean, but what's the reserve requirement for the liquid funds that you guys require for new applications?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, so I forgot to backtrack. People ask me like, hey, what do I qualify for? Like, what's the biggest loan I can get? That's honestly going to depend on your liquidity for the most part. We want to make sure that you're going to be successful with your deal. We don't want you to like run out of money halfway through. So in your liquid funds, we want to see enough for the down payment, enough for closing costs, enough for the rehab budget, and enough for 6 months worth of holding costs. So like, first of all, can you close on the property? Do you have enough for down payment and closing cost? And then do you have enough to complete the project? Do you have enough money to like finish the rehab? And then do you have enough money to pay for the interest payments?
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then you spoke about the draw process. Now, you mentioned that for the person getting the hard money loan, right, and for the draw process, what's that typical time period where you guys go in and verify the work that's been done? Like, because my understanding is like some construction companies, they'll have different phases of which you get billed, right? So like, what's that on the Coventus side? How long does it take for you guys to verify and then send that money to the person taking the loan?
Great question. So it takes about a week from when you initiate the draw process to when you get your funds wired into your account.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Cool. Sounds good. Any other questions before we move on? All right, so let's move on to the long-term rental loan program. And this one's actually the one I'm the most interested in talking about because, to be honest, a hard money loan is kind of obvious. Like you buy it or you get it because you want something that's quick and it's used for fix and flip projects. It's been around for decades. It's a pretty understood industry. This one, though, is relatively new. It only came out about a year ago. This is a loan that you're going to need after you're done getting 10 plus loans for all of your rental properties. I always thought, hey, what do you do after 10 plus loans? How do you continue the BRRRR strategy over and over again? Well, here it is. So the long-term rental loan program is also a type of hard money loan in the sense that, we don't care about your debt to income ratio, but we care about if the property itself can support its own payments. So we use something called a debt service coverage ratio to determine that, which I'll present in a little bit. So these are 30-year fixed loans. We don't look at any income verification or W-2s. We don't care how many loans you have. And our rates can go as low as 4%. So to get a rate, to get a 4% rate isn't for everybody, but it's possible. And so I have a lot of clients who have 30-year fixed loans on their properties at 4%. So this is great for people who are purchasing more properties or people who are refinancing their portfolio that they've had for a long time. And they probably finance them with private money loans or something really high. So there's 4 different types of long-term rental loans that we have. We have the typical 30-year fixed rate. So that's just where the interest rate stays the same and doesn't change over time. We have a 5-1 ARM and a 7-1 ARM program. What that means is for the first 5 years, your interest rates are fixed, but then it changes every month based on some index. Sorry, it changes every year based on some index. That's why it's the /1. 7-1 is the same thing where the first 7 years is fixed interest. And then every year after that, it changes based on the index. But this one's pretty cool too. We have a 10-year interest only option. So this is also a 30-year fixed loan in the sense that the interest rate stays fixed. But for the first 10 years, you only pay interest. So for anyone who wants to ramp up their cash flow for the first 10 years, this is the option to go with. Now, of course, on the downside, after your 10 years, you're gonna be paying off the rest of the loan in that 20-year period. So your interest or your monthly payments basically skyrocket after year 10. But during that time, hopefully your rents have increased and you could potentially refinance again into another 10-year loan. So this is how we calculate if your loan will qualify or not, or if your property will qualify. We do something called a debt service coverage ratio calculation. DSCR is calculated in many different ways. From every different lender has different ways of calculating it. Some people use net operating income. Some people use whatever. We use gross income. So it's actually really easy to qualify for our loans. We take your gross income here. For example, you rent for $1,500 a month. We take $1,500 and then we divide it by your principal, interest, your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA dues. So PITIA, that's what we call it. In this case, this imaginary example where the loan amounts for $150,000 and your mortgage payment is at 5.5% per year. Just doing some basic mortgage calculations, your principal and interest payments are for $852. Let's assume your property taxes are for $250 a month. Your insurance is for $80 a month, and your HOA dues are $75 per month. Sorry. In this case, you take your numerator, which is your income, divided by your PITIA, and you get 1.19. So for us, we want to see a DSCR ratio above 1.15. We can go a little bit lower, but we prefer to stay at that 1.15 range or above. And this shows that your property cash flows. Like no matter how efficiently you run your property, no matter what, you have to pay for these 4 things, right? So if you have a lower ratio, it means your property is probably not cash flowing and you have like an allocated property. So another intricacy about these loans is that they have prepayment penalties for them. So prepayment penalties mean like if you were to sell the loan or sell the property or refinance the loan before that period, you have to pay a small fee. We have several different versions, but by default, we're at 3 years. So we expect for 3 years, you don't sell or refinance it. Otherwise, you pay a penalty. Now, the default prepayment penalty is like a step down basis. So it's like a 3-2-1, right? On year 1, you pay 3% of the loan amount. On year 2, you pay 2% of the loan amount. And on year 3, you pay 1% of the loan amount in prepayment penalty fees. So as a quick example, if your loan amounts for $100,000 and you paid off your loan on year 1, you're like, I don't care. I got a great deal. I'm selling my property. Then you'll be paying $3,000 as a prepayment penalty fee. And year 2 is $2,000, year 3 is $1,000, and after year 3, no more prepayment penalty. Some people though, they plan on keeping their properties forever. Like they have no intention of selling. They're like, you know what? I'm keeping this for at least 10 years. In that case, we have other options to lower your interest rate. So this is how many people are getting down to that 4% rate. They're going for like 5-year prepayment penalty periods or 7-year prepayment penalty periods. And you can see this drops your rate by 0.25% or it drops it by 0.5%. The harsher you go, the more it drops. So this is how we calculate the rate. This chart is very complex. But if you look at it for a few minutes, like it's gonna be pretty easy. Let's assume we have Nelson here. He has a 780 plus credit score. So we start from this number. And let's say he wants a deal at 70% LTV. So we come here, 780 credit score, 70% LTV. So now he has it at 5.25. But there's all these little adders and subtractors that might change the terms of the deal as well. We then go to this column here and we basically look, okay, this thing DSCR'd above 1.15, so we subtract it by 0.35%. Oh, his interest rate is above his loan amount is above 100,000. We don't have to add this interest rate down here. So basically we look through this whole chart and we kind of find out like, okay, what is your actual interest rate? So it takes maybe like 3 minutes or so to calculate the different scenarios. And then we can see here, like, oh, if he wants a 7-year minimum interest, his rate drops by this much. Oh, if he wants to not have it, he wants only 1 year prepayment penalty, then his interest rate is up to here. So this is how we calculate the interest rate. And these are the ways that we tweak your rate so that we can get to what you want.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of numbers. That's
trust a lot of numbers, man. I do this every day. Yeah. Just doing quotes.
This is a presentation of numbers, or is
exactly.
it
Hey, we're all Asian, right? So it should be easy for us.
Okay.
Anyways, these are the limitations to this loan product though. So again, you can't do this for owner occupied properties. And this one, you actually do need experience. For our bridge loans, like the fix and flip loans, you could have no experience and it's fine. Like we do loans for new people all the time. But for here, you need to have some type of home ownership experience. You must have owned a property within the last 2 years, whether that's your own personal residence or another investment property. But we don't do this loan for people who don't have experience. One loophole to this is if you can buy this property somehow with cash or with a bridge loan, then you can refinance it and then you're all good because you already own this property.
But if you had the cash to buy it, why would you need a hard money loan?
Because you don't want to keep it in the property. It's a BRRRR strategy, right? You want to buy it with cash, you want to fix it up, and then you want to refinance out.
Well, speaking of which, is there a seasoning period for your type of loans like this? Do you also wait for 6 months?
That's a great question. We actually have a slide on that in maybe 1 or 2 slides. So I'll get to that in a sec. So another limitation is this property, like these loans have to be for properties that are already in livable condition. So like I mentioned before, for conventional financing, they want to make it livable condition. Same with these long-term rental loans. So really the only benefit for this type of loan is if you can't get conventional anymore, that's where this product really shines. Like if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have income anymore, can't qualify, boom, this is what the loan's for. We can do 1 to 8 unit properties. For single family properties, we can lend up to 80% of purchase price. For duplexes to fourplexes, we can lend up to 75% of purchase price. And then for 5 to 8 units, we can lend up to 70% of purchase price. There might be some exceptions for maybe like 9 units, maybe 10 units, but other than that, you have to go the commercial route and find a loan for that. Our loan limitations, we want to see loans for at least $75,000, ideally above $100,000. As you saw on the last slide, like if your loan amount is below 100,000, we do add a little bit to your loan amount. I mean, to your interest rate. And for this one, we also do have a 660 credit score minimum. And every 20 points, the numbers change, as you saw in that last one. Every 20 points, the numbers get a little bit better. So you want as high as a credit score as possible. And like you mentioned, Nelson, if you have teammates who have bad credit scores, it's probably best if they're like off the loan, because then they're going to drag you guys down. So here's a seasoning period. This is what you were asking for. We have 3 different phases. And if you bought the property and you're trying to do a cash out refinance within 3 months, our loan amount is going to be capped to the lesser of 70% of your cost or 70% of the value. So cost means your purchase price plus your rehab costs. And I have an example in the next slide, so we might have to get too much into numbers. For 3 to 12 months, the cash out refinance is maxed out at 100% of your cost or 70% of the value. And then at 12 plus months, the seasoning period is over and we can refinance you up to 75% of the appraised value. So if we look at the example here, I have some clients who do just this. They do the BRRR method with our loans because we can just keep doing them for them over and over again. But you buy it for 200,000, you rehab it for 30,000, and the current value is now 350,000. So your hard cost or your purchase price plus rehab cost. You can't add in like your loan cost, unfortunately. So it's 230 right here. For the different seasoning periods, from 0 to 3 months, we take 70% of your hard cost. So 70% of this 230 number, which is 161. From 3 to 12 months, we can take 70% of your ARV or 100% of your hard costs. Unfortunately here, 70% of your ARV is a little bit higher than your hard costs, so you're maxed out. Basically, you got all of your money back that you put into the property. You're still not bad. So most of our clients do this. They don't care that some of their equity is stuck in the deal. They got most of their money back out. They got 230 out, so they're fine with that. And then after 12 months, taking 70% of this, 70% of 350, you get 245. So every different seasoning period phase, you can get a little bit more money. Does anyone have any questions about seasoning periods and the long-term rental loan program? Because hopefully this makes sense. All right, so question is, what do you do to get a cheaper loan here? So on the bridge side, having a higher FICO score, I think going up to 740, you look like a more spectacular candidate. You get better rates. Across the board, if you ask for lower LTV, you're going to get better rates. People are often asking me, Sean, I want 90% and 100% for rehab, and I have no experience. It's very hard to sell that to our higher ups because they're like, I don't know, like this guy is not experienced enough. But if they want only 50%, oh, easy, right? We'll do the loan all day and we can give them a super low rate. The more experience, the better. And of course, repeat business. So our tier 1 clients are getting some ridiculous rates at ridiculous leverage. It's like the rich get richer, right? And of course, negotiating. So as much as I hate to say it, you're better off calling as many hard money lenders as possible. Great, call me. We'll definitely beat out everyone. But before that, if you can get more bids from other people, then at least I know what we're going against. And we can say, sure, we can take their rate and possibly do 0.25% less. So it's always good to negotiate on the bridge side. Like most lenders are very flexible there. On the long-term rental side, it's a little bit different because we're pretty much stuck to that grid. The long-term rental loan product is too new, so there's not much wiggle room there. But as you saw on the chart, the higher your FICO score, every 20 points, there is a slight difference, maybe 1/8%. The lower LTV, every 5% of LTV you need less, the better you are. More experience, yeah, kind of. It's not really on the chart, but if you have experience, we can give you the loan. And if you have more experience, maybe we can make some exceptions here and there. We didn't talk about buying down the rate, but besides going for like a stricter prepayment penalty, you can actually buy down the rate too. So if you are at like a 4.5% and you want to get down to 4%, you can pay 1 extra point at closing and we can drop your rate down from 4.5 to 4%. So those are the ways that you can get a cheaper loan. For most of my clients, I always tell them to buy down the rate because you're already in a prepayment penalty period. And within like 2 or 3 years, that extra cost pays for itself. So it's totally worth it. All right, that's all for my presentation. Thank you all for attending and listening to it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them now. This is my contact information. I'll probably link them in the chat in a little bit. But my email is sean@everythingrei.com. That's probably the best way to reach me. Of course, we're on Instagram and my YouTube channel is there as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your time, Sean. We have a lot of questions coming down the pipeline. This is what usually people come for. Okay, so Alan started with, in your experience in the Bay Area, how long does it take flippers to flip a house? And then another question, what are your rates for the first time flipper, assuming the flipper has 10 to 20% down, so that 80% LTV you were talking about?
All right, one sec. I just stopped my share screen. Let's ask it one more time.
Okay, so the first question is a bit ambiguous. Obviously, they ask how long does it take a flipper to flip a house in the Bay Area? It depends on the project, right? So if you're doing lipstick, it could take a month. There's other gut rehabs that take 6 months.
Yeah, I would say from my experience, it takes around 2 months to complete the rehab work. That usually includes permits and inspections as well. and then it takes maybe another month or so to get it prepped, put on the market and showing for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. That's another month. And then another month to go through the escrow process where you got a buyer, you accept your offer, and then here you go. So I think the whole turnaround time is around 4 months. That's
Okay.
kind of average.
Makes sense. And then another question, what are your rates for a first-time flipper, assuming the flipper has 10 to 20% down and the rehab costs?
Yeah.
So, just, yeah.
So like I mentioned, if you're like a first-time flipper, generally speaking, we're going to limit you to 80% of purchase and 80% of the rehab cost. And those rates, I mean, if you're going in the Bay Area, right? If you're investing somewhere in a more tertiary market, the rates are going to be a little bit higher. But if you're in a solid market like New York, LA, Bay Area, rates are going to be around 8.5% and 1 point for the origination fee.
Okay. This one is, I'm also curious about, how do you evaluate rent for when you're calculating DSCR? Like, do you take the pre-existing rent, or are you also taking neighborhood comps?
I think it's both. So if the property is vacant, we're going to take comps, and it's going to be based on the appraiser. Actually, the appraiser is going to tell us what the number is. We also do an internal evaluation with our capital markets team. They're going to do their own market research. If the property is rented, we're going to take the lower of market rents or the current rents. Sometimes people have super inflated rents because they're doing something weird, like maybe student housing. So it looks really big, but we'll say, well, what if all these students move out and you have to rent it as a regular rental? We're going to take that lower number. And of course, if the property is under rented, right, it's under market, then we're saying, well, market rent's 3,000, you're only getting 2,000. We're going to take the 2,000 number as well.
Alvin asks, with these limitations on your long-term rental loans, why would someone use this instead of, say, a commercial loan, because they offer perhaps the same with less limitations? I can actually answer that. Right now, I'm working on a residential division of Brookfield Asset Management. They got about 10,000 single-family homes. If you have a portfolio of 10 rental residential units, that's not enough for commercial lenders to take a look at it. Usually you need 50 before they bat an eye and actually sign you that check. So unless, there's another reason, Sean, that I'm missing.
From what I understand, at least, because I haven't done a commercial loan myself, but I think they do force you to use new structures. Like you have to transfer all of the properties from the existing title to a new, possibly Delaware LLC. And that costs extra funds too. So those are the main reasons. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Nelson?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. With
did you have to transfer your properties to another? Well, I guess you're buying them, so it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't buy residential at scale, but the company that I'm consulting for, they fund everything through a large fund, so they don't even get loans on them at that point. So if you're trying to scale up to single family, those residential properties, it's really hard to get those commercial loans unless you have enough of them to have them pay attention, from what I've seen and asked lenders about.
Yeah, I think they were talking about that single purpose entity. But anyway, basically they require you to create a special entity and then put all of your properties in there. So you're paying more transfer taxes, you're paying money to create that. That was one of the main reasons why they would go with us versus them.
Yeah. All right. For long-term loans, Roger asks, I need to have any asset seasoning? Looks like he has a HELOC.
So, I mentioned the seasoning periods in terms of how much you can get to refinance, but no, if you own a property, then you qualify in terms of experience. Hopefully that answers your question.
What I mean is basically, do I need to have a certain amount in my bank account in order to qualify for that LTR loan?
You mean in terms of showing liquid funds for down payment?
Correct.
Yeah. So HELOC counts for us. It's as good as cash. We'll add it to your total liquidity.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is that it for questions?
I had one question. So for the hard money loan for your current clients, do they, this is for Sean, do they typically cash out refi into a traditional long-term loan? And if so, how long does it take for you guys to close on that if you haven't mentioned that yet? I'm not sure if I caught that.
most of my clients sell the property. Like when they're buying for fix and flip purposes, they usually sell it. Honestly, getting a conventional like loan to refinance out is pretty hard because most of my friends are flippers full time. Like they don't qualify for conventional financing. There have been some clients that have refinanced into the long-term rental loan program, but it's also hard too because the long-term rental loan program requires that whole like DSCR thing. It needs to cash flow. And like in the Bay Area, most properties here don't cash flow. Like we know that unless you have like 50% down. So yeah, most of them they refi or they sell. When it comes to refinancing and like the time frame for that, that's really up to the second lender, like whoever you're refinancing with and their processes. Because as far as we're concerned, all we need to do is give them a payoff demand. Like here's how much this client owes us to pay off our loan, and that takes like 10 minutes to get.
Okay. I guess why is it so hard for like the exit strategy? Because I know that to get into like, let's say you don't want to sell anymore and you just want to convert into a conventional loan. Why is that so like why is it difficult to do that? Is it you mentioned the cash flow, right? Or
yeah, it's usually the debt to income ratio. Like most people don't qualify for another loan. Like for example, if you own a home here in the Bay Area and you're trying to refinance into another home that you just flipped, and you don't have a full-time job, the banks are going to be like, no, like you don't have enough income to do it. Yeah.
All right. Someone asked, do you guys give referral fees for your loans? Which, I mean, if it's conventional, legally, you're not supposed to, but if it's commercial loan, it should be fine, right?
Referral fees, I think, are case-by-case basis. You know, like if you sent us 1 or 2 deals, you'll appreciate it so much, but it's probably not enough to make it like an ongoing relationship. But I mean, we've definitely had talks with larger entities who have thousands of clients who they're starting to send, once in a while they send our way. Yeah, I would say case-by-case basis, and definitely maybe after like 2 or 3 people have been referred to us, then we can say, okay, oh, this person's always sending us deals. Let's give them something whenever something comes by.
Okay, and then for both hard money and long-term loans, Young asked, do you require it to be in an entity or can it just be under a personal name?
It can be under a personal name. Yeah, we don't
right
away.
In fact, some people would probably prefer it in your personal name, I would think, right?
It's easier,
Yeah, you could take more of your stuff.
Either way. Okay, so either way, these loans are full recourse loans. Like you are personally guaranteeing them, even if you're buying through an LLC. So, if you don't pay, right, you foreclose, then yeah, we're gonna grab your stuff. But that's like the worst case scenario. You don't want to be that person who gets a loan and then says, all right, screw you guys, right? So.
Yeah. So if you guys ever want to get out of that recourse loan position, you can always go commercial. So just throwing that out there for everyone out. Tired of single family homes, just go bigger,
Yeah, it's true.
All right. Thank you for your time. We're closing up here around 8. Thank you again for giving us this rundown on hard money loans, Sean. Do you have your information again? Pull it up.
Oh yeah, it's a great question.
Just
Thank you so much for having me. Let me see if I paste this right.
Perfect.
I just put in my chat all of my information. You guys can email me, sean@everythingaria.com. If you guys want to schedule a call with me, that Calendly link is the best way to do it. My meetup group is also there as well, and you can just follow me on Instagram through that link. So thanks again, Nelson, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
That's what we just have one last question that I've just been asking, and I think we're trying out. As an Asian American within the real estate industry, how do you feel like it's affected you?
Honestly, I feel supported. Like, again, maybe I live in a bubble, but I'm in the Bay Area. There's lots of Asians here. I'm on the board for ARIA. So that's like an Asian American Association of Real Estate, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't feel different, right? I don't feel special, or I don't feel like discriminated against. So
nice. Okay. Do real estate in the Bay. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for your time. Have a good weekend. I'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. All right.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me. Take care. Bye.
Bye.